Hey guys, welcome back to Not Only Carrots. Today I'm going to prove to you that kale can not only taste pretty good, in fact it can actually taste awesome. We're going to make super cheesy vegan kale chips. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so the idea of eating kale chips to most people probably just sounds totally horrible, absolutely disgusting. But the first time I tried these kale chips, although I was quite hesitant, they were absolutely phenomenal. I was blown away. This is literally one of those things I can cook and put out and then it's just gone. So the idea of cooking these up and them going stale is just laughable. They literally run out the day you make them. So just give it a try, even if you think this, I'm totally crazy. They are really delicious. They happen to also be a raw food, these kale chips. They're dehydrated, and you can use an oven if you don't have a dehydrator, but you will need a strong blender because we're going to blend up some nuts. And I don't actually have a blender, I just have a Thermomix, so that's what I'm going to use today. So to start off with, you're going to need 250 grams of kale. Make sure it's washed and just tear the pieces into sort of chip size, chunks. They will shrivel down because they're going to lose their water. And if you have them too small, like say you have little chunks like that, once you pull them off the dehydrator tray, they just crumble and crush really easily. So you don't want them to be small like that. So I tend to find, the bigger pieces like that is the way to go. And once they're all cleaned and washed, you are then going to make your mixture to go on top. So let's do that straight away. Okay, so we're going to pop in 1 cup of raw cashews. It's 150 grams. Then we also have 100 grams of red capsicum. It's about a cup, and I just leave it quite chunky in the Thermomix, but you might have to dice it up if it's going in a blender. Pop them in. That's going to add to our cheesy color and also flavor. Capsicum surprisingly works really well with cheesiness. We are also going to add in some more flavorings. We have 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, which is savory yeast flakes, plus 2 teaspoons of onion powder or dried onion flakes if you have those. We also have a half a teaspoon of Herbamare, which is a veggie salt. You could possibly use a veggie stock as well and add a little bit of salt in as well, though just have a play with that. And I also have 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If you find that cayenne is too spicy for you, you can omit it, but to be really honest, these chips aren't spicy at all. All that cayenne does is give it a little bit of a lift to that flavor. All right, now we're going to add in our liquid. We have 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, which you could omit if you wanted to avoid that oil being in the recipe. But if you're going to do that, I would add in another tablespoon of probably just of water to give that moisture for the cashews. And we also have some water in here. We have 25 mils, which is about 1.5 tablespoons of water. So just tip that on top. And our final ingredient is some fresh garlic. I'm just going to use a teaspoon, but if you have fresh garlic, you can just put in 1 clove. All right, now we're ready to blend it up. I find it's about 1.5 minutes in the Thermomix, but because there's not a lot of mixture in there, it tends to get stuck on the sides, but then gravity pulls it back down again and then the blades will fling it out again. But 1.5 minutes gives it enough time to really mulch those ingredients together. If you have a regular blender, just on high is perfectly fine, and you might need to scrape down the sides from time to time to make your mixture nice and smooth. If it's not 100% smooth, it's not really that big of a deal, as long as the chunks aren't too big. You just want it to be enough to be able to get it over all of the kale chips and not have huge big chunks of cashews everywhere. All right, enough talking, let's blend it up. We're going to go speed 7.5 for 1.5 minutes. There we go. Now I will say, make sure that you don't change anything in the recipe, in these ingredients, until you've tried it the first time, because if you add too much liquid, your kale chips are going to take way too long to dehydrate, and you might think, oh, that's not going to be spicy enough for me, I need to add more. I encourage you to just make it as per the recipe to begin with. My husband said in this case it would literally be like painting a mustache on the Mona Lisa. He believes that this recipe is the pinnacle of perfection. So yes, all right, let's get to it. Let's scrape off our lovely cashew, cheesy cashew mixture. Oh yeah. I'm not going to clean my hands because we're going to be massaging our kale. Now, I am not promoting or sponsored by Tupperware, but I happen to have these containers and they're really big and they're just perfect for my kale chips to go in. So this is all rinsed, as I mentioned before. One other thing I will mention very briefly is, as you can see, some of these kale pieces are yellowing a little on the edge. This is okay, but if they were very yellow, I recommend you don't use them because they can get very bitter and they just do not taste very nice at all. So kale is one of those things you want to get it from the shops and make it straight away so that it doesn't get yellow and yucky. All right, let's get that mixture on top. And while we're rubbing this in, I can share with you some fabulous things about kale. It is so high in vitamin A, vitamin K, which is great for clotting your blood so you don't bleed from cuts, and that sounds weird, but anyway, that's what it is. Vitamin K helps to prevent bruising and that sort of thing. Vitamin C, really high, like crazy high in vitamin C. So if you can include kale every week in your diet, you will be healthier for it, and this is one of the easiest ways, seriously, to eat kale. The other way that's really great to eat kale is with my other kale recipe. I'll leave the link below, and that is a cooked kale recipe. It's got lots of lemon juice and garlic, and it's really delicious as well. But my husband, once again, reckons it's nothing compared to these. So, I don't know, we might have to have a bit of a debate about that because I really like that cooked kale. But anyway, all right, so as you can see, I'm just massaging the kale. Basically, you want to avoid having big chunks of topping on one piece and then one having nothing. You're trying to share the love, share the cashewy goodness, cheesy cashew goodness between all of those kale chips. So you squeeze them through, toss them over, squeeze them through, and repeat until they're all lovely and covered, which I'm pretty sure that they are now. All right, so I like to use the 3 trays. In my dehydrator, the top tray has a little cover on it, so just keep that in mind as you're stacking them again. And yeah, so just a third in each. And I just spread it out, and if they're too chunky or whatever, just grab another tray if you've got it, or cook them in batches. Now, you can use the oven if you don't have a dehydrator. So the temperatures that you dehydrate it at are, if you're in a low humidity area, it's about 50 degrees Celsius for 12 to 16 hours. But where we live is crazy humid, sometimes even 60% humidity, even higher. And yes, we find that it doesn't dehydrate at 50 degrees. So I actually do ours at 70 degrees for the 16 hours. So you may have to play with that a little bit depending on your location. But I promise you it'll be worth it. You can always try it at the lower temperature first and then work your way up if it's not cooked enough. Now, these are pretty good. So you can see they are going to shrivel down a little bit, so a fair bit, so don't be too worried if they're looking a little bit crowded, but yeah, that's pretty good. So that's what I would do. And then I would restack my trays and wash my hands, and then I'll show you how to set the dehydrator. I'm going to pop them on top, make sure they're all stacked and locking into each other. You go in there, get the lid on, and excuse the dirty bench. So first you need to set the temperature and the time. So first I'll set the time down here to 16 hours. It's pretty easy. Not sponsored, just happens to be my dehydrator. And I hold it in to set the temperature at 70 degrees, and then just the on button, that's turning it on, but that's going to be noisy for the show, so I'll turn it off, turn off, go off, okay. It won't turn off. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yeah, I made some last night to show you. So this was exactly this same amount. So it made this much. So I'll just give you an idea of how crispy they are. I have a little fiend over there. I'll just, all right, that'll do. You're dropping them on the floor, Eden. Crazy child. I don't know if I want to eat one and have it all in my teeth, but all right, I'll eat it. All right. Can you hear how crispy that is? Just for the sake of science, I'll eat another one.
Just for the sake of science.
It's a science. Just science. That's all it is. They are so good. So I'm going to have to keep eating these now, guys. So I'm going to have to go. I'm so sorry. But they are delicious. They make heaps. They're very filling. But they do not last long. They're absolutely delicious. So let me know in the comments below. Have you ever made kale chips before? Have you bought kale chips before? And were they really expensive? I bought kale chips before. And oh my goodness, they cost a lot of money. And if you don't know which dehydrator to buy, this brand is just Kogan brand. It was really quite a cheap dehydrator. I just got it online, so you could look them up. But there are other brands out there that you could try as well. I think it was like $70 or thereabouts. 70 Australian, yeah. So yeah, which is like 4 cents US, my husband's saying. Very good. Anyhow, enough from me. Guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel here, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye. I do too.
I'm dead.